In this episode, we are back on this truck build. If you haven't seen the first video of this truck rebuild or just need a little refresher, this is a 2014 GMC Sierra 1500 SLT, which is one of the higher models of this year truck. As you maybe can tell, it got into a little wreck, but we got a good deal for this thing and we're gonna be fixing it up, and I'm rebuilding it for my dad. This is gonna be my dad's new truck. He's never owned something this new, this nice, and I'm really excited to be able to rebuild this for him. Last episode, we tackled the suspension. The front left suspension took a major hit. The left wheel hub assembly basically got ripped off, so we had to replace the whole thing. And I figured since we were replacing all that, we might as well add a lift kit. So we installed a Rough Country 3.5-inch lift kit around the whole thing. It looks awesome. The stance is amazing, but the front end is still messed up. We still got a good bit of work to do. If you were just to look at it from this side, it looks really good. Nothing wrong on this side. All the damage was basically focused on the front left corner. We need a new hood, new bumper, new fender, new door, and then whatever else is damaged underneath there, such as the headlight and whatever plastics and support brackets are underneath there. I don't know what we need for that until we actually start tearing this thing apart, which is what we're going to be doing in this episode, and hopefully get it looking complete again. I don't think it's going to be completely 100% done in this episode, but we're going to get a good majority of it taken care of. There's a couple more things in the last episode I didn't show you. Some little bit of damage in the back area. Right here you can see the front bumper is pushed in. It looks like a trailer jackknifed it or something, backing up and bending that bumper. That's usually the culprit for damaged bumpers like that. Unfortunately, it did tweak the actual bed a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to fix that yet because I think that calls for a whole new bedside. Not sure if I can pull that out. I'm not sure if it's even worth it. But I do want to get a new bumper for the rear end because this cannot be fixed. We'll have to replace that. One more thing that some people noticed in the comment section of the last episode was this dent on this back door. This front door is obviously going to be replaced, but this back door is in good shape. Just has that one little ding right there. I wasn't planning on repainting this door, but I might need to if I have to blend the paint all the way to back here. And then also a little bit more damage is down low on the rocker panel. There's a dent right here and a dent right there. I'm not sure if I'm gonna repair that yet. I might get some side steps that will cover that. Now, speaking of repainting, I was trying to avoid that by buying used parts that were the same color and in good shape. But I've learned that this paint color is actually kind of rare. You don't see it very often, and you cannot find it in used parts. And if I do find it, it's usually twice the price of the regular used parts with just a regular white color or a black color. So what I did is I tried to find really good condition used parts. Most of them have been white. I think all of them have pretty much been white besides the new front bumper piece that I bought. So it's not gonna take a whole lot of paint to fix this, but we do have to repaint pretty much everything that I bought. Another thing we need to take care of in this episode is the interior. We got a little bit of work to do inside here. In the wreck, the driver's airbag went off. This is the only airbag to actually deploy, which is very nice, because if a passenger airbag went off, this whole dash would have to be replaced. So it's very good that the only airbag to deploy was the steering wheel, because this is only like a $400 replacement. Not that big of a deal, and this is usually pretty easy to replace. When a car gets in a wreck, there's usually a few more things that you need to replace besides airbags, and that is the seat belts. The seat belts are a major thing. Sometimes it's just the driver's side, and sometimes it's both the passenger and the driver's side. In this truck's case, both of them got locked up, so I'm going to have to remove both of these and send them off to get repaired. There's only one company I use, and that is myairbags.com. What you do is you remove them from your vehicle, box them up, and send it off to be repaired, and it gets repaired in one day in the facility and shipped back to you. So overall, it should take less than a week to actually get back to you and install right back into your truck, and you should be good to go. Another thing that needs fixed is the airbag control module. That will always need reset after a wreck, and it is usually underneath the center console. I believe in this one, it is up underneath this thing. We gotta remove a few parts to get to it. It should be pretty easy to remove. The seat belts, on the other hand, might be a little bit more difficult because these ones got locked up pretty hard. So I might have to move the seat back a little bit to loosen it up. Oh yeah, that works a little bit better. Loosening it up some. These will need replaced. I don't think the buckles will need replaced, but we will check that to make sure. But to start off, I'm gonna go ahead and get these things removed and boxed up and sent off to myairbags.com. Get all that taken care of, so once they return, we can go ahead and install them back in the truck along with a new airbag and control module, and then we should be good to go to drive this thing, and everything should be reset. After I get those seat belts removed and everything and get it all boxed up to be shipped off, we're gonna take apart this front bumper and grille section, check behind it, make sure there's nothing major that needs replaced. And if we see anything that's damaged, I wanna go ahead and get that on order so we can go ahead and get to replacing this. That's what's up next. Stay tuned. Let's get to it. Overall, it doesn't look a whole lot different, but we did get a good bit done, and we replaced that whole front bumper. Let me show you the main damage of what we had to replace up here. Grill is in good shape. This headlight was in good shape. It was mainly the bumper and this bumper bracket over here that we had to replace, along with the radiator support. I believe that's what it was called. There's a couple different radiator supports in there, but this one was the main one we had to replace. And this one is in good shape. I just had to bend it back in place a little bit. And there was like a little tiny crack on one of these support mounts for the grill, but it's sturdy. It's not going anywhere. I don't think that's worth replacing this $300 part just for that one little crack right here. But this right here is the main thing we replaced, the radiator support. You can see right here where it started to crumple a little bit. Got pushed in that way. It was actually a little bit worse before I straightened it out some. And same thing with this bar right here. You can see where it folded in. Overall, it wasn't too hard to replace. There was a lot of bolts though, and trying to remember where those go, that's the difficult part. I think we got it all in the right spot. I do have a couple of bolts left over, but the new bracket actually came with some of those, so I think we're okay. It lines up okay. It is a little off though, but I think I know what the issue is. You can see when the hood is closed a little bit, there's a big gap on this side. It's supposed to look more like this. If you look down this way, you can kind of see how big the gap is. It's about maybe half an inch off. And that is because I think this fender is actually pushing this out a little bit further than it's supposed to be. So if I push this in, you can see it wants to move back. And I don't have all the support mounts all bolted up yet. Like these support mounts, I gotta replace those or bend them back into place. This is supposed to bolt in right here. So you can see it still needs to go back a little bit. And this fender is absolutely destroyed, so it's all off where it's supposed to be. But it is stopping it from moving just a little bit. That's not a major concern right now. It'll all line back up once we get this fender off. I'm pretty confident in that. And speaking of fender, we actually have all the body parts in to replace all this. Let's show you. Oh, this one's heavy. We have a new used fender, as you can tell by the numbers and everything on it. We have a new door, and we have a new hood. I say new, just new to me. They're all in really good shape. There's a few dings and dents on them. Mainly this hood right here. There's a couple dents. You can see right here, little ones right here, and maybe a little one up there. Not in perfect shape, but if I bought a new one, first off, it was gonna be a little bit more expensive. And second off, shipping on these hoods are just a nightmare. They always come damaged and you always end up doing more body work to them, so. Just buy used. It's a little bit easier. This door, as you may notice, it's off of a Silverado. Silverado doors and the Sierra doors are actually compatible. Along with this hood, I believe the hood also came off of a Silverado. All of that's compatible except for the fenders. The fenders are not compatible because the Silverado fenders don't have this trim right here. This trim. Silverados do not have that, so you cannot swap a Silverado fender onto a Sierra. But back onto this door, the only ding I see is right here. Just a little one we need to fix. We also need to take apart this door and get it ready for paint. Yeah, this almost looks a completely different color. It doesn't even look white. It's almost like a cream color. So unfortunately, yeah, we do have to repaint all of these because every single used part I have is the really bright white color and not this cream color white. It's pretty unfortunate, but we do have body work to do on all these parts, so we're gonna have to repaint them anyway. It is gonna be a little bit easier though, since they're all white, especially the hood. I don't think I'm gonna paint the underside of the hood. There's just a little bit of it showing, so I don't think anyone's ever gonna notice. But the door, on the other hand, I am gonna paint the inside of that because people will be opening that all the time. It's the driver's door. So really just this dent right here, a couple dents on this hood, not too big of a deal. And lastly, I did decide to fix this rocker panel right here. I don't think it's gonna be too hard to fix, and I might just blend the paint back that way and then buff it out so I don't have to clear coat the whole entire side. Yeah, I think that's my plan. I just want this to look really good for my dad, so we're gonna go ahead and get that taken care of too. All right, so that's the plan right now. I'm gonna go ahead and take apart this door and get all the dents marked out, get them fixed, and then we can start priming and getting this ready for its paint color. Let's do it. Dents are all taken care of, and we even painted the inside of the door. Let me show you what it looks like out in the sun. It's currently drying. I want to give it a few days to dry before we flip it over and paint the other side. It is fully dry to the touch, but it does need to cure a little bit before I want to flip it over. This little bit of rainwater isn't going to hurt it. I just want it to fully cure. That way it won't scratch or anything when I flip it over to paint the other side. Just looking at it right now, the paint color looks very close. We won't be able to fully tell until it's actually mounted on the truck, but just from looking at this, it looks pretty close. The paint I've been using is from Eastwood.com. They started mixing OEM paint colors. I've used it on my parents' Jeep. I just used it on the Prius I painted. Now what's different about this paint coat is actually not just one color. It's a undercoat and then a top coat over that. The undercoat is this creamy kind of white color, a little bit of an off-white color, and the top coat is more of like a translucent pearl. You see a lot of these tri-coats in cars that have a lot of metallic in it. Usually they are a tri-coat, so it takes a few extra coats to actually paint your body panels when you have a tri-coat paint job. First off, Eastwood's paint lays perfectly flat and it covers very quickly. I had that door mostly covered in just one coat. I've painted quite a bit of cars in my time, and I can tell you it's hard to match paint, but this Eastwood paint has been matching really good. I'm really impressed with it. Now normally, and what you really want to do is install these onto the car and paint them while they're on the car. The issue with that being is this truck is very big and my garage is not very big. It will fit, it's just a very tight fit and it's not very comfortable for painting. So I am going to paint this off the vehicle. I don't really recommend that if you can avoid it. Now, every time you paint parts on a vehicle, you want to have it set up how it usually is on a car. So with a hood, you want it flat. You don't want it sticking straight up in the air. So to paint these parts, I'm gonna have the hood just like that. I'm gonna have the bumper just like that because that's the best way I can do it. And the door, I think I'm gonna mount on the wall somehow. That is my plan for that. I'm still waiting for my clear coat to come in because I ran out painting the underside of the door. So that is my plan for painting. But one other thing I wanna do before I paint is this. This is a exhaust fan from Vevor.com. Now, it being the middle of summer here in Florida, and Florida is very humid, it's hot. Right now, it's kind of overcast, but I'm still sweating a lot from the humidity. I don't have any exhaust or vent fans in this garage. The best way I can get some ventilation in here is through my garage door. And that's basically it. I need a vent fan to get some air circulating in here. I want to get this humidity out and get some breeze coming through here because it has been very miserable to work, especially this year. It's been really hot. So I'm gonna install this vent fan. It has a temperature gauge on it, along with 10 different fan speeds, so it should work out really great in here. I think I'm gonna install it on the back wall. That way the circulation can go from my garage door all the way to the back. Link for this is in my description. You guys can check them out. I've used Vevor products all the way from pulling dents out of cars all the way to my steering on my boat. They offer so many different products. You can check out their website to see what you need. Most likely they'll have it. So let's get to installing this and get to painting the rest of these parts. It'll go easy. Everything that needed painted is painted. It's all good. It can go back together now. I have to wait a few days before installing all this back on the truck. I want it to cure out in the sun for a few days, get that paint to harden up and fully cure. That way we don't scratch it or anything when moving it. You can still scratch it even when it's fully cured, but less likely to happen. The prepping, the paint work all went almost pretty flawlessly. About as good as a paint job you're gonna get, especially being in a garage. I do all my work in here, so dust and everything gets everywhere. I clean it out as best I can before actually painting every single time and have some kind of ventilation. That's what that new fan is helping with. Wet the floors down so no dust gets stirred up. It does help a lot, but the one main thing that you can't really avoid is bugs getting in here. That's just something you have to deal with doing this in a garage and being a little bit on the cheaper side. Out in the sunlight, you really can't see anything wrong with this. Let me see if I can find one of the bugs that landed in here. Little tiny spot right here. I got the bug out, but it does leave like a little bit of dirt in there. So if you ever end up painting parts yourself, especially in a garage, don't be too hard on yourself because there is gonna be flaws in it. It's not gonna be a perfect paint job. The door came out really good, no runs or anything in it. It all looks pretty awesome, especially out in the sunlight. It looks even better. I highly recommend this paint from Eastwood. It's on the affordable side and it covers so well and it matches so well. I didn't really talk too much about it, my plan before with this rocker panel, and then I didn't even mention this thing up here. There was a lot of chips in the paint from whenever I got in a wreck. It must have hit a tree or something. It looked really bad up along this panel right by the windshield, and I really wanted to paint that. Properly repaint this thing, you would have to remove the door, remove the bed, sand this whole side panel down, and paint everything because you can't get your paint gun in between these cracks. That just adds on so much more time for just a little bit of paint work we had to do. So what I ended up doing is blending it. Now you hear people blending paint all the time, but that's usually the base color. So for example, you would blend the actual paint color to maybe right here on this door, and then you'd re-clear coat the whole thing. But what I did on this is I blended the actual color of the paint all the way up to here, and then I blended the clear coat all the way up to right here. So all this is OEM clear, and this is the new clear I put on. And what I have to do right here is to wet sand it down with like 2500 grit sandpaper and then buff it out. And that is gonna save us so much time just doing that, and it looks really good. And same thing right down here. You really can't see where I stopped. Right here is where I stopped. So we're gonna buff that out, clean up these scratches, and it should be good to go. That was my first attempt to ever do that technique of painting. You don't really see it too often, and it's not super recommended. But for this little amount of paint work and save us so much time, I think it's worth it. Once we let this cure for a couple days, we can sand it down and buff that out, and it should be back to perfect. It's just so hot outside. I've been outside for 5 minutes and drenched in sweat. In here, it feels a lot better. The new vent I installed from Vevor actually is helping a lot in here. It's a couple degrees colder, and it's getting all that hot air out. That link is in my description if you want to check that out. Also, Eastwood's paint is in my description too. Check those out. I use their paint, I use their primer, I use their paint gun. All that's linked in my description if you are looking to paint your own cars, save you a little bit of money. Anyone can honestly do it, just a little bit of practice, and don't be too hard on yourself if you mess up, because it's going to happen. I mess up all the time. So in a couple days, we're putting this truck back together. I have everything I really need to install it. Waiting on a few little extra parts. I also have a couple surprises that my dad doesn't know about that I'm gonna be installing on this truck. But next episode, all gonna be installed, all gonna be done, and it's gonna be driving and fully done, hopefully. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. It helps bring more attention to these videos, and so in turn, that actually helps me out a lot. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. And a huge thank you to the sponsors of this build. If it wasn't for them, a lot of this stuff would not be happening. Just a huge thank you to everyone and everything that makes this channel happen. With all that being said, I will catch you in the next episode on something. We'll see. Thanks, guys. Bye.